I have a vivid recollection of the moment I realized I wasn't wanted. At age 5, I was perched on the carpeted stairs of our modest suburban Minnesota home when I overheard an argument between my parents in the kitchen below. "We should try again, Mark." My mother's voice quivered with desperation. "The doctor said there's still a chance." "Sarah, we've been through this," my father Mark replied, exasperated. "3 miscarriages after Emma. I can't bear watching you endure that again." "But we need a son, someone to continue the family name," my mother insisted, her voice trailing off, heavy with disappointment. "That was my identity, Emma Parker. The disappointment, the firstborn who dared to be born a girl." Every birthday and holiday became a reminder of their discontent. If only Emma had been a boy, they would say, unrestrained even if I was present, as if the Parker name's security was my responsibility. My early years blurred by being ignored or considered bothersome. While peers celebrated with princess-themed birthdays, mine were spent watching my parents browse adoption websites for baby boys, screens turned plainly my way, shouting disappointment. I learned invisibility, slipping between mother's moods, understanding when to ask for dinner and when to vanish into my room. My father, absorbed by bank work and his own dissatisfaction, seldom acknowledged me. Then, when I was 7, everything shifted. I clearly recall the spring morning when my radiant mother burst into my room. She didn't notice my fever. "Emma, wake up. I'm pregnant." Brief hope fluttered. Maybe this time they'd have love left over for me. That flicker extinguished 2 months later, at the doctor's office, as I toyed with a tattered magazine. The announcement echoed joy. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Parker, it's a boy." My mother wept with joy. My father, embracing her, whispered, "Finally, a real heir." My presence forgotten, I retreated to the parking lot before tears fell. The ensuing months were a blue whirlwind. Blue nursery walls took over my playroom, blue clothes, blue blanket, conversations consumed by their son, their true heir. I vanished further, if that was possible. Michael James Parker entered the world on a frigid January morning. Inside the celebratory delivery room, I sketched pictures of my imagined brother alone in the hospital lobby. Hours passed unnoticed before a nurse guided me in. "Would you like to hold your brother?" she offered, but my mother's sharp "No." She might drop him, rebuffed even that. At the room's edge, I peered at the blue bundle. My father, beaming with pride, sat beside them. Neither noticed me. I became a ghost in our home, parents adrift in rooms past me, their focus fixed entirely on Michael. Noise meant scolding, silence meant erasure. I endeavored to engage with Michael, sneaking in nighttime to soothe him. "It's okay, Mikey," through crib bars, only to be ousted by my mother. "What are you doing here?"
"Get out," she'd bark.
Persisting, I'd crawl with him, be quickly halted. "Emma, leave him alone," cut my father's reprimands. Desperate for connection, I tried words, met with dismissal. "He needs to learn proper speech," my father dictated sternly. One evening when I was 9, I unintentionally overheard my parents talking. Their voices carried through the heating vent into my room. "Mark, we need to think about Michael's future," my mother was saying. "His education, his opportunities." "I know, Sarah," my father responded. "Private school isn't cheap, but he deserves the best. He's exceptionally bright already. But given our current situation with 2 children and expenses, Emma's becoming a problem. Did you see her report card? All B's. She's average at best. Michael, however, is showing real potential. We need to focus our resources on him." "It may be time to consider other options for Emma," my father suggested. 2 weeks after overhearing their conversation, my parents called me into the living room while Michael was at my aunt's house. They didn't want him to hear what they had to say. "Emma," my father began, his tone as cold as when he talked to a business client, "your mother and I have decided it would be better if you lived elsewhere. Pack up your belongings. We're leaving tomorrow morning." I broke down into tears, pleading with them to let me stay, vowing to be better, quieter, smarter, whatever they wished. My pleas were ignored. When I refused to pack, my mother did it for me. hastily throwing my clothes and a few possessions into 2 suitcases as I sat sobbing on my bed. The following morning, without so much as an explanation, they loaded me into the car. We traveled for hours, crossing state lines until we arrived at a house I'd never seen. Waiting on the porch was an elderly woman, my father's mother, a grandmother I'd never met. Without much ceremony, my parents ushered me towards her, my mother handing over my luggage. "This is where you'll live now," my father declared decisively. I stood frozen on the porch and watched as they exchanged last words with my grandmother. "You're making a terrible mistake," she said, seething with anger. "Abandoning your own child. We can only properly look after one child," my father retorted coolly. "We've chosen Michael. This decision benefits everyone." They departed without hugging me, no kisses on the forehead, nor promises to return, just the sound of the car doors shutting and gravel crunching beneath the tires. Details of that first night are blurry, except for crying myself to sleep in a strange bed while my grandmother stroked my hair. "Why don't they want me?" I asked between sobs. "Oh, sweetheart," she soothed, sadness lacing her gentle tone. "Your parents do love you. Sometimes things happen that leave us confused." Yet, I struggled to grasp how loving parents could leave their child behind like an unwanted puppy at a shelter. Weeks turned into months, and gradually, I adjusted to life with Grandma Helen. Unlike my parents, who were cold and distant, she was warm and attentive. Where they criticized, she encouraged. Where they ignored, she paid heed. I discovered that Grandma, respected and beloved by her students, was a high school English teacher. In the evenings, she'd sit with me at the kitchen table, aiding with my homework while recounting stories about her favorite books and authors. Learning became an adventure rather than a chore. 6 months after my arrival, Grandma sat me down on a Saturday morning, papers spread on the kitchen table, her expression serious yet kind. "Emma, dear, there's something important I need to tell you. I've adopted you legally. Do you understand what that means?" I nodded, comprehending slowly. "You're my guardian now," I said. "That's right. Legally, I'm responsible for you, just like a mother is," she affirmed. Relief mingled with fear. Questions about my biological parents lingered. "What about them?" "They've relinquished their parental rights," she explained softly. "No need to worry about being sent away again." From that day onward, my parents became like specters, present only in faded memories. They never called, visited, or sent birthday cards. Yet surprisingly, their absence began to sting less. Under Grandma's nurturing care, I thrived. My grades improved, B's turned into A's, and soon I was excelling in my class. I joined the debate club, formed genuine friendships, and experienced sleepovers and movie nights. Grandma attended every school event, brimming with true pride. Sarah Martinez became my closest friend after partnering for a science project. Her family frequently invited me over for dinner, where her mother embraced me with the same warmth as she did Sarah. For the first time, I experienced a loving, normal family dynamic. During senior year, the inevitable question arose: what's next? While my classmates were anxious about college applications, I had already made my decision. Finance resonated with me. Numbers had a clarity that people sometimes didn't. Observing how my grandmother adeptly managed her modest teaching salary taught me the importance of financial savvy. One night, while perusing college brochures, I mentioned to Grandma, Columbia University has an outstanding finance program. Their graduate placement rate is remarkable. She paused from her grading, looked up, and smiled. "You've always reached for the stars, Emma. Have you checked their application requirements?" Indeed, I had. My GPA was strong, my extracurricular activities were noteworthy, and my SAT scores exceeded their average. However, the tuition posed a challenge. "I realize it's expensive," I began to say, but Grandma interrupted me resolutely. "Apply. We'll find a way." When the acceptance letter arrived with a partial scholarship, I was thrilled, yet the scholarship didn't entirely cover the tuition costs. "I've been saving for this since you came to live with me," Grandma disclosed, showing me the college fund she'd set aside for me. Your education is an investment in your future. I believe in you. College turned out to be everything I hoped for. I devoted myself to my studies, maintained my scholarship, and interned at various financial firms over the summers. By graduation, several prestigious firms had extended job offers to me. I decided on Morton and Pierce Financial in Grandma City. The prodigal granddaughter returns, she quipped, learning of my choice. But we both knew it wasn't out of obligation. I genuinely wanted to be there. Quickly ascending in my career as a junior financial manager, I worked harder than anyone, undertaking late nights and additional projects. Within 2 years, I was promoted to senior financial manager, leading my own team. For my 25th birthday, Grandma organized a close-knit dinner at her home, the same refuge I'd known for so long. She prepared her famous pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, and a chocolate cake to make angels weep. Afterward, in the cozy living room over cups of tea, Grandma grew serious. "Emma, I need to tell you something. When your parents reached out a few months ago, requesting funds for Michael's college tuition, I refused," she said, stirring her tea gently. "I reminded them of their choice all those years ago, when they left you. I chose differently, to care for you, and I've never regretted it. Life has a curious way of exceeding your hopes when the past no longer confines you." By the age of 30, I had surpassed my greatest ambitions as financial director at Morton and Pierce, becoming one of the company's youngest executives. My corner office provided a breathtaking view of the city, and my penthouse graced a local lifestyle magazine. Memories of my former family were infrequent, although occasionally I'd wonder if Michael had inherited Dad's receding hairline or Mom's expressive hand gestures. They were mere characters from a forgotten story. Then came the unexpected Facebook message one morning over coffee, a comment on my professional headshot. "Oh my God, I'm so proud. My beautiful, accomplished daughter. Sarah Parker, my mother." My hands trembled as I read her follow-up private message. "Emma darling, I've been searching for the right way to reconnect. You appear so radiant and accomplished. I've always known your potential. Financial struggles are burdening us. Michael's student loans are formidable. We took significant loans for his education. I hoped we could meet for coffee. The family misses you dearly. We're ready to reunite. Love, Mom." I reviewed her words several times, noting her emphasis on my success before seeking money, signing as Mom, despite 2 decades of absence, never once acknowledging her abandonment. Without replying, I blocked her and my father's accounts to prevent further contact. I assumed that marked the end of it. I was mistaken. 3 months passed when I attended Grandma's 75th birthday, filled with her friends and former colleagues from her teaching career spanning 40 years. The atmosphere was warm and festive, overflowing with laughter and the kind of comfortable chaos that comes from a house full of people who truly care about each other. Mrs. Rodriguez, who retired the same year I graduated, was reminiscing about Grandma's legendary fight with the school board over library funding. Meanwhile, Mr. Chen, my old calculus teacher, was arranging a buffet of potluck dishes in the kitchen. In the midst of this, a knock came at the door. Grandma went to answer, probably expecting another guest. I was engrossed in telling Sarah, my best friend from high school, about my recent trip to Greece, when I heard voices at the door that made my blood run cold. "Hello, Mother," my father's familiar voice said. "Happy birthday." And turning slowly towards the entrance, I saw them. My parents, looking older yet essentially unchanged. My mother's hair had grayed, and my father's waist had widened, but they were still easily recognizable. Between them stood a young man I had never seen before, yet his features were eerily familiar, a blending of our parents' looks, just like mine. Michael, my brother. And my father handed Grandma a hastily wrapped package, likely a cheap bottle of wine from its shape and weight. "Happy birthday, Mother," he said stiffly. Before anyone could react, my mother burst past Grandma, rushing towards me with arms outstretched. "Emma, oh my precious daughter," she exclaimed. Stepping back, I couldn't avoid her awkward hug, redolent with the same perfume that used to turn my stomach. And everyone. My father proclaimed to the befuddled guests, "This is our daughter Emma. We're so proud of her success. She's a financial director now. Did you know? Our brilliant girl?" And I cut in sharply. "Our brilliant girl? What exactly do you need?" And Emma, please. My mother whispered urgently. "Don't make a scene." Then, louder for the audience, "We're here to reunite our family. What better occasion than Mother's birthday to bring everyone together again?" And I didn't invite you, Grandma said firmly, her authoritative teacher voice in full swing. "I think you should leave." And Mrs. Rodriguez tentatively stepped forward, her face full of concern. "Now, Helen, surely on your birthday, families should be together. Forgiveness is important." And my mother seized the opportunity, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "I've missed my baby girl so much. Every day, without you has been agony, Emma." And something inside me snapped. 20 years of bottled-up anger erupted like molten lava. "Really, Mom? Why don't you tell everyone why we haven't been together as a family? Since you're so keen on honesty, why don't you explain exactly what happened?" And Emma, don't. My mother started, reaching for my arm. And I pulled away sharply. "No, let's tell the truth. Let's tell everyone how you and Dad drove me to Grandma's house when I was 9, packed my bags while I cried and begged to stay, then left me here to focus on your beloved son." The room fell silent. Michael shifted uncomfortably, staring at the floor. And let's tell them how you never called, never visited, never sent a birthday card. How you erased me from your lives like I was a mistake you could just throw away. Now, after 20 years of silence, you want to be a family again? Now that I'm successful and wealthy, you suddenly remember you have a daughter? And faces that had been puzzled or encouraging now displayed shock and disgust. Mrs. Rodriguez covered her mouth, while Mr. Chen shook his head slowly, his earlier smile gone. And my mother's face twisted with rage, her facade of maternal love shattered. "You ungrateful brat," she shrieked, pointing a finger at me. "Your father is disabled, needs expensive medical treatments. As his daughter, you're legally obligated to help." And that's right, my father chimed in, now adopting a pained expression. "I can barely work anymore. We'll sue you for filial support if we have to. You have money now, you owe us." And nah laugh erupted from me, surprising even myself with its ferocity. It wasn't a happy laugh, but one born out of the absurdity of the situation. A dark, bitter amusement. Wiping tears of laughter from my eyes, I said, "I don't owe you anything. You seem to have forgotten a crucial detail. You signed away your parental rights. Legally, I'm not your daughter anymore. Grandma adopted me. She's my legal parent, and you can't sue me for filial." Emma's eyes remained unyielding as she stared at her parents, whose faces had turned as pale as ghosts, almost comical in its rapidity. As my father's mouth opened and closed uselessly, my mother's hands began to tremble. "Emma, sweetie, we're so sorry," she implored, sorrowful regret lacing her words. "We made a horrible mistake. Can't we just start over? After all, we're family." "No," Emma replied, her voice unwavering. "We're not." With a decisive nod, Grandma reached for her phone. "Get out of my house," she declared firmly, "or I'll call the police. I'm certain they would be fascinated to hear about your attempt at extortion." Michael, silent until now, tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, let's just go." Deflated, they shuffled toward the exit. Though her mother still attempted to have the last word, muttering insults and accusations under her breath. Emma's father glanced back, anger and desperation etched into his features, a new realization dawning that their chance was irretrievably lost. Once the door closed, the room's tension dissipated, like sugar dissolving in hot tea. Guests, having witnessed the drama unfold live, began to relax. "Well," said Grandma briskly, breaking the silence. "I believe we were celebrating something. Who wants more cake?" Life resumed at the party, yet a shared understanding lingered among the guests. Family isn't always tied by blood. Sometimes it's about choice. Emma and Grandma had deliberately chosen one another. After celebrating Grandma's birthday, Emma returned to work the following Monday. She led her morning meetings and reviewed quarterly projections, as though nothing had happened, but something had shifted. An unseen weight had lifted from Emma's shoulders. Her parents and Michael made no attempt to contact her again, no social media outreach, nor surprising appearance at her office. Their desperate attempt for money had disintegrated any pretense of repairing a relationship. Emma's bond with Grandma deepened post-incident. The Sunday dinners grew sacred. No matter her work's demands, Emma carved out time to drive over, assist with meals, and share weekly anecdotes. Occasionally, friends from the birthday party joined, reminiscing about that unforgettable celebration. Her career flourished as well. Emma made executive decisions confidently, proud of the merit-based success she had cultivated, independent from family connections or inherited privileges. Ironically, Emma noted, her parents deemed her unworthy of investment, yet she managed multi-million-dollar portfolios. During this flourishing phase, Emma met David, the new head of legal affairs at Morton & Pierce. Their frequent elevator encounters turned into coffee invitations, which morphed into dinners, weekend outings, and eventually love. David was unlike anyone Emma had dated. He listened and understood when she revealed her parents' tale. He respected her hesitation to trust easily or widen her circle, never urging reconciliation or cautioning her harshness, unlike previous partners. "Family is what you make it," David mused during a park stroll. "Blood is just genetics. Love is a choice." Over dinner last week, David proposed, the restaurant her favorite. The ring dazzled, but the promise it signified, of choosing each other every day, mattered more. While planning their wedding, Emma knew the guest list would omit the Parkers. Her family would consist of Grandma Helen, who exemplified maternal love, Sarah Martinez, her loyal high school friend and maid of honor, and Mrs. Rodriguez and Mr. Chin, almost becoming an aunt and uncle. David's family, always warm and receptive, would unquestionably be there. These were the people who stood beside her, the ones who truly mattered. Lying in bed some nights, Emma thought of her 9-year-old self, isolated in the back seat of her parents' car, pondering her perceived faults. She longed to reassure that little girl that her future held unimaginable success, love, and what mattered most, a real family chosen through love and choice rather than blood. Emma Wilson, she had adopted Grandma's surname, stood proud, embracing her journey and who she had become.